The Pyramids of Giza. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built around 2600 BC, is not only the most famous of the seven wonders of the ancient world, but also the only one still standing today. Constructed during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, it was part of a larger complex that included temples, smaller pyramids, and of course, the Sphinx. At the time of its completion, it stood around 146 meters tall, making it the tallest man-made structure in the world until medieval cathedrals in Europe surpassed it. Even today, its sheer size is staggering. Built from an estimated 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing between 2.5 and 15 tons. Now, the level of accuracy they achieved without modern tools baffled scholars for centuries. Now, it was also originally covered in smooth white limestone that would reflect the sun, making the pyramids shine very brightly in the desert. Now, inside the pyramid, it houses a complex system of chambers, passageways, which include the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and the mysterious Grand Gallery. But it still remains as one of the greatest feats of ancient construction. Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, said to have been built around the 6th century BC, remains one of the most mysterious wonders of the seven wonders of the ancient world. See, unlike the Great Pyramid, which still remains today, the Hanging Gardens' existence is still debated. See, ancient writers like Strabo describe them as a series of lush gardens towering the city, filled with plants, flowers, and flowing streams of water. They were supposedly created by King Nebuchadnezzar II for his wife Amytis, who longed for the greenery of her homeland in Media. And to ease her homesickness, the king is said to have built this incredible garden in the middle of Mesopotamia. The gardens were thought to rise high above the city with a sophisticated irrigation system. Now, this allowed trees, vines, flowers to thrive in an otherwise quite dry and arid climate. However, despite the vivid accounts, no definite evidence has ever been found in Babylon. Some historians have suggested that the gardens may have actually existed in Nineveh, built by King Sennacherib, whose palace records actually describe lush gardens with elaborate irrigation systems, very similar to the Hanging Gardens. The Statue of Zeus. The Statue of Zeus at Olympia, completed around 435 BC, was one of the most iconic symbols of ancient Greece. Now, it was crafted by the renowned sculptor Phidias, who had created the statue of Athena in the Athens Parthenon. Now, the statue of Zeus stood inside the Temple of Zeus at Olympia. Now, the statue was very, very large, about 12 meters tall, which was so large it nearly touched the roof of the temple, which gave the impression that if Zeus stood, he would break through the structure itself. Now, the statue depicted Zeus, the king of gods, seated on a grand throne. In his right hand, Zeus held a small statue of Nike, the goddess of victory, and in his left, a scepter topped with an eagle. The statue stood for centuries but met a mysterious end. Some sources claim that it was destroyed in a fire at the temple in 5th century AD, while others claimed it was moved to Constantinople, where it was later lost. The Temple of Artemis. The Temple of Artemis was completed around 550 BC and was celebrated as one of the biggest temples of the ancient world. It was dedicated to Artemis, the Greek goddess of hunt and childbirth. Now, the temple was famed for its enormous size, measuring about 115 meters long and 55 meters wide, as well as its lavish decorations. The interior housed a massive statue of Artemis, adorned with gold and silver. Festivals and ceremonies were also celebrated in the temple, which involved performances and even sacrifices. Now, it was first destroyed by Herostratus in 356 BC, who set fire to the temple in a bid to immortalize his name. The city did not like this and promptly rebuilt it, even bigger than before, drawing in artists and sculptors from all across Greece. However, it faced repeated damage from invasions, earthquakes, and ultimately fell into ruin as Christianity spread throughout the region and pagan worship declined. Mausoleum. The mausoleum in the city of Halicarnassus was an extraordinary tomb constructed for Mausolus, a Persian satrap, and his wife Artemisia. It stood at approximately 45 meters tall and combined Greek, Egyptian, and Lycian architectural elements. Now, the structure itself had a massive sculpture of Mausolus and Artemisia riding in a chariot. Construction reportedly took around 4 years, involving thousands of workers and skilled artisans. But over the centuries, the mausoleum suffered damage from earthquakes, and by the Middle Ages, much of its stone had been removed for other building projects, and many of the original sculptures are now housed in the British Museum. The Colossus of Rhodes. The Colossus of Rhodes, completed around 280 BC, was a gigantic bronze sculpture built to celebrate the island of Rhodes' successful defense against a siege. Standing approximately 33 meters tall, it was one of the tallest statues in the ancient world and represented Helios, the sun god. The construction process took about 12 years and involved heating large sheets of bronze and hammering them over a wooden frame. However, around 226 BC, approximately 54 years after its completion, a massive earthquake struck Rhodes and caused the statue to collapse over. The fallen bronze laid in place for over 800 years. However, later on, Arab forces reportedly sold the bronze for scrap. The Lighthouse of Alexandria. The Lighthouse of Alexandria was completed around 280 BC, just off the coast of Alexandria. Commissioned by Ptolemy I and completed under his son Ptolemy II, estimated to stand between 100 and 140 meters. It was one of the tallest man-made structures of antiquity and served as the model for lighthouses for centuries. This allowed Alexandria to flourish as a major trade hub, guiding ships carrying goods across the Mediterranean. Now, aside from its practical function, the Lighthouse of Alexandria was a symbol of the city's grand wealth and the Ptolemaic dynasty's power. Now, despite it surviving several centuries, the lighthouse was severely damaged by a series of earthquakes between the 10th and 14th centuries. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.